With the release of the Legion Go S not that long ago, at least at time of recording, just a few days ago, that device, at least in its current state, isn't a particularly great value, at least until the SteamOS version releases in a few more months. With that version launching at about $500-ish, give or take whatever spec you get, the version that has released recently is about $750. It is a to the max spec, so it kind of makes sense why it's so expensive. It's with a lot of things that you don't necessarily need. It has 32 gigabytes of RAM, which isn't something that you necessarily need, especially on a lower power device such as this. It just has a few upgrades that aren't necessary to the overall experience that I would recommend most people to wait until the SteamOS version releases. But at this price point as it currently stands, it puts it in near competition to some pretty premium high quality devices. Much like the RG Ally X, for an extra $50, you get the RG Ally X, which would be significantly more powerful, has double the battery life, which I understand is a gross oversimplification, but generally speaking, double the battery life. I would argue a downgrade in screen, but not everybody cares about OLED, so fair if you don't necessarily care about that. But generally speaking, the RG Ally X would be a significantly better purchase right now, given how expensive the Legion Go S is currently. But eventually, it will be significantly cheaper and pose a much greater value. But that begs the question, the original Legion Go is still available, even on sale in some places. You can currently get the 1TB Legion Go, the original one, detachable controllers and everything, the 1TB version for $700, which isn't significantly cheaper than the Legion Go S, but it should be just a better experience overall. For those of you who don't care for OLED, it doesn't have OLED, it has an IPS screen, a higher resolution screen at 2560 by 1600. It has the detachable controllers that some people might prefer, and it honestly, in terms of power, might end up being the same or better, given the 4 fewer cores and the general downgrade in terms of architecture basis for the actual SoC. But testing does show that they perform close enough, so performance isn't going to necessarily end up being a huge tipping factor here. It's just going to be general overall preference. These two devices are incredibly close in price at the moment, at least until the release of the SteamOS version, as I mentioned before, later this year. The Legion Go still offers an amazing value, especially if you can find it used or for open box pricing. Currently, Best Buy has them for open box for about $550, at least at my local Best Buy. Even some of you guys have mentioned in the comments being able to find Legion Go's for a killer deal used on eBay, anywhere between $350 to $600, which honestly is a pretty decent price, especially for what you're getting. When the Legion Go first originally released, it was a cut above the rest. The RG Ally had slower memory in comparison, which led to it having not a significant, but a noticeable increase in terms of performance. And for those of you who are curious, the original speed of memory found in the original RG Ally is 6400, 65 MB transfers per second, something like that, and the Legion Go had 7500 MB transfers per second, which is the same speed found in the RG Ally X, which also contributed to that device's significant performance increases alongside just generally having more memory and more of it dedicated to the integrated graphics. The Legion Go is still an amazing experience. If you have ever used the Nintendo Switch, it is a very similar overall experience, especially if you get some sort of docking system that allows you to dock the Ally in a similar fashion, which honestly is incredibly cool. Other YouTubers like Wolfden have made little holders for the tablet portion to hold it inside a sort of a mini arcade cabinet situation. Fighting games, which is incredibly cool. There's so many community-made tools or 3D printable things you could do to make the Ally just an incredibly cool device. But on its own, it offers its own plethora of features over something like the Legion Go S, making it a potentially compelling device to buy if you're looking for a PC handheld right now. And if you're comfortable going used, it is a pretty decent value still. Like I mentioned before, it has the detachable controllers, a significantly better trackpad experience in comparison to the Legion Go S, which is much smaller, akin to some other devices like the GPD Win 4. Don't get me wrong, it's not bad, it's better than nothing, but I would honestly prefer what the Legion Go has than what the Legion Go S offers. The device still has USB 4, though it is still limited to only one USB-C port, which is kind of unfortunate, but it is USB 4, so you can connect it to any USB 4 or Thunderbolt dock, which sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. I would check any dock you might buy and check to see if it works beforehand before committing to anything like that. I would say the same thing for external GPU enclosures, which this thing does support, which is pretty freaking cool. The actual experience of using it is pretty decent as well. Though it is on the heavier side of things, it is a chunky boy, so I wouldn't necessarily recommend playing this thing in bed, holding it over your face like you might do with your cell phone or the Nintendo Switch. Because if this thing falls on your face, it's gonna hurt. Lenovo's launcher also has gotten significantly better with time, though it's still not my favorite. Honestly, I think these are all kind of bad. Asus's Armory Crate, Techno's Technospace, or whatever the hell they call it, it's all just terrible. Even iNeo's isn't particularly great. But the Legion Go's is a little bit better than some of the competitors out there, so I don't necessarily think you're compromising in that aspect. The screen is something that some people still might find a bit contentious. I personally like the display a lot, but it is, in my opinion, too high of a resolution to practically game at. It is unlikely you've been able to run any game at the 2560 by 1600 display resolution, but it is a still beautiful looking display. And if you do anything else other than gaming, that screen is a massive benefit. But the way I see it, it isn't necessarily worth it considering the drain on the battery having such a high resolution does to it. On top of it, the screen is so small at about 8 or so inches that it doesn't necessarily make a whole lot of sense. That pixel density is insane. You could have gotten away with a 1080p screen just fine. But if you do manage to get it at the lower prices you might find out there, it is a significantly better value than the current offerings out there right now. Unless you manage to find an ROG Ally for like $200 or $300, which has happened, and those deals are incredible. But I see a lot more Legion Go's out there for around the $400 to $500 price point, making it a lot more accessible for people out there hunting down some deals. To me, the Legion Go still makes a pretty smart purchase, especially if you were looking into something like the Legion Go S, but you wanted some of the features that the Legion Go 2 will offer. You can get a similar experience with the original Legion Go, but for a significantly cheaper price point, or a similar price point as the Legion Go S will eventually be. I would still highly recommend the Legion Go in 2025. It is still an incredible device, and if you're hunting for a good deal, potentially a worthy choice. And if you're on a budget as well, it is possible to find this thing for significantly cheaper. This device works for a lot of people, and I would still highly recommend it today. I would love to hear what you guys think about this down below. Are you excited for the Legion Go S when it eventually comes with SteamOS? Or are you just gonna buy an original Legion Go on discount or open box to find the best deal possible? Because while they're gonna be similar performances, it's gonna have a much different overall user experience that you might prefer with the original Legion Go. I would love to hear what you guys think about this down below. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. All the other social media garbage down below. And last but not least, have a wonderful day.